Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today is the 14th day of July 2020. This is the Mediation Africa Forum virtual series hosted by Wasilianahub. Today, we are hosting the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration. Our guest speaker is Mr. Alex Mwaniki, who is a Senior State Counsel at the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration, and he will be taking us through a step-by-step tutorial through the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration Mediators Panel on how to make an application, the process for local and international mediators. Thank you for joining us once again from us all at Wasilianahub. Karibu sana. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today for this session, which is being held on the 14th day of July 2020. This is the Mediation Africa Forum virtual series that is hosted by Wasilianahub. And today we have the pleasure of hosting Mr. Alex Mwaniki, who is a Senior State Counsel at the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration. That is the NCIA, or commonly referred to as the NCIA. Mr. Alex Mwaniki will today be taking professional mediators through how to make an application to be part of the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration Mediators Panel. Mr. Alex Mwaniki, we are delighted to have you on our call today.
This meeting is being recorded.
We are delighted to have you on our call today. So, Mr. Alex Mwaniki, I hope the glass of water that you've just had will help you to journey with us through this particular session. And thank you very much for joining us, and especially on this late evening, which enables some of the mediators who are part of the Wasilianahub mediators community to be able to join in. We know that we will be having a second session with you, so we are grateful that you have accorded us the privilege of being able to spend the time with us for this session. As is our tradition, we will start off with the national anthem. And then after the national anthem, we will go right away to host Mr. Alex Mwaniki, who will be taking us through once again what we are calling a step-by-step tutorial through the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration Mediators Panel, the application process and the application form, and that is for the local and also international panel. And we are really delighted about this because, as we say, that we are in a new season and we say that everything is possible. The Nairobi Center for International Arbitration is a very close body, but however, for mediators, it has not been our regular organization that we have been engaging with. So this is actually a great privilege that we can actually be able to have the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration with us for this particular session. And so we can be able, ladies and gentlemen, to start off with our national anthem. We have been able to welcome the colleagues who are waiting on the call. And for that, we will start off, we will go with the first stanza of Wimbo Wetu wa Taifa, which is in essence in Kiswahili. E Mungu nguvu yetu, ilete baraka kwetu, haki iwe ngao na mlinzi, na tukae na undugu, amani na uhuru, raha tupate na ustawi. A prayer for our nation, and very appropriate at this particular time. Without further ado, Mr. Alex Mwaniki, and you have been granted all the rights to be able to unmute yourself, and also you are able to screen share for this session. So firstly, we would like to get to know you, Mr. Alex Mwaniki. And so you'd kindly tell us who is Alex Mwaniki before we start going into the business of the day. Kindly, Alex.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Wangari, for the introduction. My name is Alex Mwaniki. I am currently a senior case counsel at the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration. I have been with the center for the last 4 years now, and we've been part of the team that has, brought the center from, inception, worked on the rules that you perhaps all have had a chance to look at, and all the establishing documents, basically moving the center from an act of parliament to an institution that conducts and mediations and arbitrations. Again, this has been, for the 4 years we've been there, we've been under the good leadership of Lawrence Mirori, who is our CEO and registrar. Besides that, I am an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, and I am a supporter of ADR, having now had my formative experience in my practice as an advocate in the ADR field. So yeah, I think that's a brief introduction, and I'll be happy to then take you on to our business of the day, which, as Wangari correctly mentioned, is a step-by-step tutorial on our application. And I think my work for me today is fairly simple, since this is something that we deal with on a daily basis, and we get applications of all, and I'll get more details about this. So it's something that I'm able to, highlight and enlighten yourselves, so that you are all filling those forms as you go along, and we'll be happy to receive your applications towards the end of this month. All right. Great. So I'll share my screen.
Yes, kindly, please share your screen.
I hope it's up. Hope you can all see the form.
Yes, I can see it, and so we take that the colleagues on the call can be able to see it. Colleagues on the call,
Excellent.
Today we are having a very direct presentation by Mr. Alex Mwaniki, who's taking us through the application form for the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration Mediators Panel. And in case you have any questions, please post them on the chat, and we will be able to handle them as we do go on. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Wangari. So the form is a pretty straightforward form, and this form you'll find it on our website. It's easy to download, and we also have an inbuilt form on the website. So depending on how you prefer to fill it, we have all those options. So you can either fill it on the website, download, fill, and scan to us, or download and deliver hard copies to our office. We accept all manner of applications which suits your convenience. So the form begins with, of course, the first page is you affix a photo. We'd want to see who is this person who's applying to be on the panel. So there's affix a photo, and there's a paragraph which begins that you agree, if accredited to the NCIA Mediator Panel, to be bound by the terms and conditions applicable to NCIA Mediator Panel status, and to any subsequent amendments or alterations which happen in future. And of course, you also understand the NCIA is not obliged to approve this application or give reasons for non-approval. Though our practice has always been, whatever application we get, those that don't go through, we will always then inform the applicants why theirs did not go through. So we've, as a matter of practice, if we receive an application, and we process it and we see you've attached all that is required to be attached, but that application is not approved, we'll always write back and give you reasons. And we'll tell you, for instance, you did not approve because you did not have a certain qualification. If in the event you attain that qualification, you are allowed to resubmit the form to us at no cost. You don't need to pay another application fee, which will come to in a short while. So the first page, basically, it's the same form that we use for both domestic and international panels. And the people who are basically coming on to, applying to be on our panel, you just tick whichever box that you're keen on applying. And you can tick both if you're qualified for both domestic and international. You can tick domestic if you just want to apply for domestic, or pick international if you just want to apply for international. And I'll come to the details of what are the costs, what are the different application fees for these two categories. So under our mediator panel, we only have the domestic mediator and international mediator panel. Our other panels, which are perhaps not subject to today's discussion, are domestic arbitrator panel and international arbitrator panel. We've had applicants who apply for the 4 of them, and those who are qualified for the 4 of them. And if you're qualified, then you're panel listed for the 4 of them, and you're eligible for assignments or NOAC on the 4 of them. All right. So the first bit of the form is the particulars of the applicant. Here we really want to know what is your name. It's a very basic, and I'm sure all of us who are logged into this went through a similar process that Wangari subjected us to join this, this meeting. So basically your names and then nationality. And here would want to know, sometimes also depends on, you have a mediation, or you're an international mediator. And, you would want to know if, for instance, parties say would want a Chinese mediator. This is why this is important. We want to know the nationality. We want to have a South African mediator. We want to have a Nigerian, So it's important to just attach. And if you have multiple nationalities, again, attach copies. One of the things that people miss out is what you see in brackets in this form of attach copies. So you just fill in your ID number, but you fail to attach copies, which will then therefore mean we'll still go back to you and request you to attach copies. So as you're filling the form, I would request that you're keen and, wherever it says attach copies, do not fail to attach copies. Otherwise, your application will be incomplete and will take a longer time for it to be considered, since we do not table applications that are not complete. That's on the first part. So the other bit, again, part of the first part is the name of the farm, if applicable. If you have a farm, then you indicate the name of the farm. If not, then it's not applicable. Mailing address, again, this is important because we do a lot of exchange of mails from the center to our panelists. The country, city, postal code, this is again is pretty much straightforward. An email address and the primary occupation. We always request those who fill this form by hand to make sure they fill it in block and so clearly written, because we've had email addresses where you write an email and it bounces, but it's because you also can't read what was written on the form. So we always request block letters and in a very legible manner. So the second bit is on education. So the first part, we never had issues with it, except for addresses that are not proper, so communication is difficult. And it's basically details about yourself. The second bit is now on education. It's two levels. Number one is academic qualification, and number two is mediation training. As a center, we have a policy of the minimum academic qualification is a degree. That is the minimum, a degree and an undergraduate degree of any kind. All right, it's not about being lawyers or architects or just an undergraduate degree in any field. All right, so we of course you indicate, and these are an asterisk that you see there, is that you must attach proof of qualification and training. So if Wangari says she has a degree from the University of London, she would then be required to attach certificate. So of course you said name the degree, the year awarded, and the name of the institution. Then attach that certificate. And you can go on and on. We just picked three, although the form has three, but doesn't limit you to adding more than that. The second bit is on mediation training. Again, if you have any mediation training, you're required to attach proof of that training. And then if you've also been involved as a facilitator, a trainer or instructor, then you give a descriptive of your role. This helps in making having the panel looking at the applications understand you even more. And it's easier for someone who has any of these qualifications to then be empaneled. All right? So, and after the education, both academic and mediation training, the third bit of the form is on the mediation experience, which again here, if you look at the form, it says, what experience do you have as a mediator? And the form, or rather the center looks at three different categories of experience. Number one is you've been a sole mediator, all right? And we, of course, you can see the categories we've given, which is commercial, construction, investor state, others. There could be family. The mediation is so wide that it's just not limited to this. And really, so it could be either a sole mediator, a co-mediator, or a counsel or an agent. So this is the whole holistic sort of experience that people now applicants would have to indicate in the application form. From our experience, we've noted that these spaces are never enough, all right? And we've had applicants indicate now in writing and say, have attached a resume, my abridged resume, which now speaks to my mediation experience. So instead of, if you find this difficulty feeling, or you have no experience in commercial construction investor state, and your author is more detailed than just those 3 lines, would then allow you to attach a resume, or an abridged version saying, my experience over the years have been this sort of mediation. But of course, we would not expect any applicant to indicate names or details of the parties that were before them, obviously noting the issue of confidentiality in these processes. All right. So as you're speaking to your experience and what is that you've done, the B part of the experience is to give kind of a brief outline or profile of disputes that you've handled as a mediator. This helps the center to, in the event where it's a center now appointing a mediator, they look at, there's this certain applicant who is now on our panel and has a lot of experience in this sort of disputes. So again, without disclosing the nature of the parties, we just want to know what type of disputes did you, have you handled? What are the issues? What is the value of the dispute? And then the nature of evidence. The nature of evidence that is there is explained down the form. We're looking at, was it documentary evidence? Was it oral? Or was it, witnesses came and made their submissions? Okay. So in the duration of dispute, as a center, we purpose to have our disputes done maximum of 90 days. So this is important. So we also tell the people coming on board, we have seen from your application, your disputes lasted this long and that long. You then must then abide, remember the form at the beginning, you must then abide by our rules which say 90 days from beginning to when the parties then sign their settlement agreement. So I think that's pretty straightforward, and I'll be happy to take any questions that arise from this. The C part of experience is the number of years you've acted as a mediator. And this is another attachment which is key and which is very important for to accompany your application. You must attach a brief resume, a CV or profile, which speaks to your mediator or mediation profile. Okay. And D part is, are you a certified accredited mediator or listed in any panel in any other arbitral mediation institution? It's pretty much as yes or no answer. And this again helps if you have an applicant who has been listed somewhere else. It's almost automatic that they'll be admitted if they qualify or they fulfill all the requirements that the center requires. And the last part under that is whether mediation is currently your full-time practice. Again, a yes or no question. The fourth bit, again, this is other information other than what is spoken about education, experience, and training. And here you're required to outline any other relevant experience or provide any other information which supports your application, including where your mediation experience involves disputes of international character. And this, of course, comes in handy when people are applying to be on the international panel. B, again, an important aspect is which is your preferred practice as a mediator. You perhaps would have a lot of preference in commercial mediation, as opposed to what others would say, family matters. And if you indicate that should be a preferred area of practice, the center then would consider you for appointments whenever they have disputes filed at the center in that particular area of practice. So that's again is important. This is the last bit of the form. Yeah, it's a declaration and an undertaking that you then must sign. So the declaration is simple, is that you understand, similar to what we read at the beginning, that the NCIA does not provide employment for any mediator. And you also understand that the decision to nominate or appoint a mediator or mediators in any mediation referred to the center is within the exclusive discretion of the center. Then you, of course, I, indicating your name, hereby declare that the information that you provided is complete and accurate, and that you understand that a false statement may, of course, disqualify your application, and you hereby then give consent to a personal investigation in connection to an application NCIA or for NCIA Mediator panel status. For one of the things you must do is you must sign declaration and the date, which ideally is the date for you making the application to the center. a very important aspect, and as you see in bracket, that again, most people fail to attach, is a recommendation by 2 referees who attest to your mediation experience. And this could be your colleagues. This could be people in where you are trained. People who can say, I know so-and-so, and I can attest that they are good mediators and they are, of good standing. One of the things that you must then attach is a certified or notarized document by the referee. So if I, Alex Mwaniki, am a referee to Wangari, I want to just break it down. I then have to write in no particular form. It's just the way you write a recommendation letter to, for when you're applying for a job. And I'd write and say that I know Wangari Kabiru as a mediator, a very, just simple 1-page recommendation. But then I must attach a certified copy of my ID. This came up because we would get recommendation letters, and when we make phone calls to verify them, and that person will say, no, I didn't write such a letter. And that's why the certified copy of the ID is important, because then it speaks to the truth of your letter. So this was actually informed by us receiving. So I'll do an application to the center, and I would write all these things. I would write commission letters to myself, but using Wangari's name. Okay, so when you call Wangari for reference, and they should say no, I don't even know Alex Mwaniki. Okay, so we then found this important to have applicants attach a certified copy of whoever it is that you pick as a referee. The last bit is an undertaking. Again, this must be signed, and you as the applicant agree, if accredited by the center, to be bound by the terms and conditions applicable to NCIA Mediator Panel, and to comply with the Mediator Panel status standard, the NCIA Code of Conduct for Mediators, and the NCIA Mediation Rules 2015, or any amendments that then may follow after that. Once you sign and date, again, this of course will be the same date as the one under the declaration. Your form is ready for submission, and you also make sure that you attach every single thing that we've talked about with this form. The very last item that must accompany now what we just talked about is an application fee for 2,000 Kenya shillings for a domestic mediation. I think I'll stop there, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
So, Alex, thank you. You just mentioned that the application fee is 2,000 for domestic application.
Yes.
Just allow me to pick on that before I round up on the discussion. Does that mean that if someone is applying for...
Wangari, you're breaking up, sorry.
Okay. Is the 2,000 shillings for a domestic applicant or to be part of the domestic panel?
Wangari?
Okay. Yes, can you hear me now? Alex?
Hello, Wangari?
Yes, please. I can hear you, Alex.
Sorry, you are breaking up. I didn't hear what you said.
Okay, you can hear me now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Alex?
Now I can, yes, now I can.
Okay, great. I just wanted to pick on your last statement. The 2,000 shillings application fee is for a domestic applicant, or when you're applying for the domestic panel, because you gave us 2 panels. You said there's a domestic panel and an international panel. Is that the applicant, meaning a Kenyan, pays 2,000 shillings and they can apply to be part of that, or the 2 panels means your country of origin, or what does it mean?
Wangari, I'll share another document just now.
Okay, but can you hear me now? You can hear me?
Yep. Yes, well? now you're clear. You're clear. Yes.
Okay, wonderful. As you're sharing that document, Alex, I'd like to thank you. I just picked on your closing there. I'd like to really thank you for walking us through the application form. The application form for the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration is actually a very simple, very straightforward, actually. And I think what has just been happening is that we probably just have not had that relationship that allows mediators to just see that the panel that is for the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration is actually a panel available for the vast majority of the mediators. I know that we have mediators who are already on the NCIA panel, just that we would like to have more on it, and we will be having a short discussion, mediators, that will enable us to understand why it's important. So yes, Alex, you have screened a document, yes. Kindly.
All right, so and again, this document, if you go to our website, you will find it there. We'll try to put this as much information as possible out there for members to just have to be aware of what it is that we're doing, what are the costs of some of these applications, and quickly just go right into it. The first bit is an application fees. This is payable once when you're making the application. So if you're making an application to the domestic panel, which will then make you eligible for domestic work if you are accredited, is 2,000 Kenya shillings for East African community. All right, and it's 10,000 shillings for non-East African community. If I have someone from South Africa, for instance, and they would want to apply to the NCIA domestic panel, they would pay the 10,000 shillings as application fee. The international panel is 100 USD, and this is standard for whether you're an East African or you're from outside the East African community region. So this is the fee that accompanies your application to the center. If your application goes through, you then are registered and you get to the panel. There's a fee called, of course, registration fee, which is payable once. And this is 10,000 shillings for East African community and 50,000 for non-East African community. The international panel is, it's clearly indicated it's 200 USD, 200 USD. So those are the number 1 and 2 are just payable ones. Application fee payable ones. So if you go through, if you register, you get a certificate, and you're now on the panel of the NCIA, eligible for work. And whenever work comes, that's the list we'll give and say, these are on our panel. Pick whoever it is that you please. Then there's annual fees. This, of course, is annual, and it's 10,000 shillings again for the East African community and 30,000 for non-East African community. For the international panel, it's 200 USD. Then renewal fees is every 4 years. You're saying after 4 years, you want to look at these profiles. These people who have been abiding by our modes of standards. And again, this will happen, knowing that you've been getting work from the center. We are sort of doing an assessment. Yeah. Do we then need to review our standards because panelists have failed in A, B, C, and D? So the renewal fees comes once every 4 years. So once every 4 years, and the cost again is there. Our bank details are indicated, and again, this document is available on our website. So the bank details, and I'll send this to Wangari to share with the members. Bank details, we do not accept cash at the center, so your application would have to be accompanied by a slip paid in favor of the NCIA, and those are the NCIA account numbers. So you're making an application using on a domestic panel, you request that you use the Kenya account number, and if you're using USD, the USD account number. Wangari, back to you.
Thank you. Oh, thank you for that clarification, Alex. So I see that on the call we have Anne Makori, we have Christine Kipsang, we have Christina Kenya, Diana Oyugi, Emerald, we have Franklin Muthomi, we have Mugo. I'd just like you to help us to understand. We are committed that mediators will bring in their bulk applications on 31st of July. That is on Friday at the end of this month. So what should come to your office? Am I hearing that we should bring an application form, duly completed together with the attaching documents, plus 2,000 shillings, which is the application fee? And here I'm taking now for the Kenyan mediators applying. Kindly confirm if that's the case so that anyone who's on the call and anyone else who will be listening in will be very, it will be very clear for them.
Thank you, Wangari. And what you just said is correct. On the 31st of July, what we'll then be looking forward to receiving in our offices is an application form with all those attachments that we spoke about this evening, okay, and a slip or proof of payment of Kenya shillings 2,000.
Okay.
So this slip, and we've seen some people, you go to a KCB Mtaani, and there's that slip you can pay and attach. We've seen people just pay via M-Pesa.
Okay.
And they would then screenshot the M-Pesa payment and attach it. It has to be one of the attachments because they go into a file, and a team in a secretariat have to look through that entire application. So the application form, all the attachment is spoken about, and proof of payment. In whatever form, if you want to walk into a bank and pay, or you want to do an M-Pesa, screenshot the message and attach to your application. Or if you want to go to KCB Mtaani and it is that slip that they always give, that should always accompany the application. Once you've received that, the committee is sitting in August, actually mid-August, and these will be considered.
Please clarify that again. Are you saying that we are in time for a review or a committee sitting at the NCIA?
No, you're in time for a committee sitting to look at the applications. The committee sits once every quarter and looks at the applications that have been received within the quarter. All right, so there's a committee, the accreditation committee is scheduled to meet, I think, on the 14th of August. So if you have the applications by 31st, we have enough time to look at the applications and to get back to the applicants and inform them that, of course, we always acknowledge receipt, and we do a checklist to just see that your application has, is complete before we submit it to the committee. So the committee is actually meeting on the 12th of August. This is a committee of the board. So the committee sits, looks at the applications, and makes that decision. A decision which then must be ratified, but it's a committee of the board. So that whatever they decide must be ratified by the board, which will then happen in the following month. All right. So one committee sits this month, the full board then sits the following month and ratifies the decisions of this committee. So I'd be happy if we receive them by the end of this month. The process will quickly then take its course, and we will be getting back to each applicant individually on the decisions that has been made on the applications.
Thank you for that, Alex. We came across the NCIA publication on a video, and I'd like to be able
application
to see
is every supplier's
Can you
dream.
hear it, Alex? Can you see?
However, when the payment from a purchaser remains pending for over 300 days, the supplier suddenly finds themselves in a nightmare. What happens when services have been offered, but the purchaser keeps extending the pay date? You could run to the courts, but they currently have a backlog of pending cases. Is there another alternative? One that is a legally binding or enforceable and faster route to dispute resolution? Welcome to the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration, NCIA, an arbitral institution which facilitates parties to resolve disputes away from court litigation. Among the dispute resolution mechanisms offered at the center is mediation, where, through a mediator, independent third party, who facilitates the parties to find their solution to a dispute in a confidential and well-structured process. One of the facilities at the center are the state-of-the-art hearing rooms, which offer a private and receptive venue for the dispute resolution mechanisms. The NCIA invites parties and practitioners to utilize the hearing rooms at an affordable fee. The center offers training and accreditation for mediators and arbitrators and educates the public on arbitration as well as other alternative dispute resolution mechanisms as provided in Section 5 of the NCIA Act 2013. The training in alternative dispute resolution, ADR, is open to anyone who wants to learn about dispute avoidance, management, and resolution. Our trainings are held in ultra-modern training rooms and are led by expert practitioners in alternative dispute resolution. The trainings can be tailored to sectors and to individual clients. Training with us gives the trainee high-quality assessment standards, access to leading practitioners in the field of ADR as tutors, as well as expert-designed materials. Granted that justice delayed is justice denied, the NCIA now stands to alleviate the delay, taking cases that would otherwise be among the many still waiting to be heard and providing efficient and affordable alternative forms of dispute resolution. This is the future of dispute management and settlement, where arbitration and alternative forms of dispute resolution offer you a less conflictual experience, so you can get back on track to achieving your dreams. The NCIA, where disputes meet resolution.
Okay. Alex, yes, I think that has helped our colleagues to be able to understand who we are talking about. That is a brief on the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration, and also I think more so to also even see the offices for the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration, and also the meeting rooms that can be either hired or are available for the services. Alex, kindly, we have sent in a number of questions onto the chat, which did come in advance, and we are sending in several more. Colleagues, we have been able to receive a number of questions, and we are relaying them now to Mr. Alex so he can be able to kindly respond to them. So the first question is who is the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration clientele for mediation? What is the frequency of jobs for mediators? And then the question on why empanelment, and I believe that is an even more general question. Why do mediators choose, or why is it encouraged for mediators to get on panels? If you'll kindly start off on that as we relay in the other set of questions, which are about 4. Thank you very much. Kindly,
Right.
Alex.
Thank you, Wangari. I'll start with the first. A comment on the video. I'm happy that you shared this with your fellow mediators. But just one of the things we're now not doing is shaking hands, in as much, now that we're living in some very, different times than when we made that video. That's just as a by the way. First question on clientele. Our first case at the center, the very, very first case we registered was a mediation case. This was at the very beginning, around 2016, when our rules are still very new, and then mediation sort of became a bit slow, and arbitration picked up, and we have had quite a number of those arbitrations, but now mediation seems to be now taking shape. We are sort of coming into an agreement with the judiciary, and we have the support of the CJA to have some of the matters that go to court, an agreement of them being referred to the center, and especially the commercial ones. All right. So we've have now started seeing people coming in through that avenue of the courts and say we had filed this in court. It's been screened, and they have said we have to go through mediation, and we've been recommended that we come to the NCIA. So we've now started getting work for people on our panel, and I think this also answers why empanelment on our panel. So we have parties who come to the center, say we want to do mediation, and we don't know where to begin. And the center that says, okay, we have a panel of mediators, and it's the parties who choose these mediators. If you look at our rules, it tells you on the steps once we receive an application for mediation, what then follows. So the parties are, of course, party autonomy. They're the ones who choose who they want to mediate. Would they want to have Amanda Maseno, or would they want Wangari, Kabiru, or Mwaniki? And if there's a timeline, if they do not choose, then the center appoints anyone on their panel. All right. So there's that. So the frequency of jobs, they've been slow, to be very honest. And now with the arrangements we're getting into with the judiciary, we foresee these, being, as frequent as we'd hope. And because the idea really is if you're going to pay annual fee, being on this panel, it means you're paying annual fee because you're getting work. And you're paying annual fee because you want to be considered in the next year. You need to be active through and through. So the point is, we don't want to ask applicants, okay, you've applied, you've been registered on the panel, we're asking you to pay your fee, and you're going to ask us, excuse me, I've paid your fee 2 years, I haven't found work. Even from our end, doesn't make any sense. So the point is, we are working to, once you formalize, or rather we complete these processes of having the cases, especially the ones going to the judiciary, come to the center, then you being on the panel, you're at an advantage of getting that work. We've also had people just walking in, say we saw your rules in 2014. If you look at our rules, in 2015, we have a made-up clause, where parties are now adopting a made-up clause as opposed to just an arbitration clause. These are commercial engagement, the contracts between two commercial entities, and they're saying they want to do mediation first. And if it doesn't work, then that's when they go to the technical bit, which is the arbitration. And if you look at our rules again, the made-up says the mediation must happen within 30 days. And I would encourage the members who are logged in tonight to look at that clause and see its application and its wording. So mediation, so if you have a made-up clause and you have people on your panel who are mediators, they would then be the first to get that matter before then going to arbitration. And if they're also qualified for arbitration, then they could take the case all the way to the end. The last bit on this is a point that just escaped my mind. Yeah, so again, we've had quite a number of couples. I think it's just from our marketing the center, talking about mediation. We've had couples who've come and say, we want to go separate ways. We do not want to go through the court process. We want a very private process. Can you get us a mediator? And we've had, people on our panel, then we request them. They've come on board and they've, handled that. We've also had chances where people don't want to do mediation using our rules. They just want a mediator, and they only want the center to appoint a mediator. All right. So the center in this aspect just acts as an appointing authority. They appoint, and the mediator and the parties go. They agree on their fees. They agree without the center being involved. So we've had all these different ways and means to create opportunities for people on our panel, so they are able then to sustain their being on the panel. Yes, and I see another question. Wangari, I don't know that I should continue.
Alex, yes, thank you for that. That clarifies with regard to frequency of jobs and also who is the NCIA clientele and why empanelment. And here, the final part of this discussion we would like to have is, after we've gone through these inquiries, is how can we support the process of the development of mediation in Kenya? And that I would like to request you just keep in the back burner, because you have been in this work. You are the center of a very big organization. So Mediators is a growing body. Already, if the judiciary has at least over 500 mediators, and not every mediator has chosen to be accredited by the judiciary. So it means then we have probably either ×2 or ×3 that are really out there. How can we be a useful force towards the development as mediators ourselves, so that mediation can be more entrenched in Kenya? So the next inquiry that we have is, which relates to the application, is how long will it take for feedback following the application? I think you did a hint to that when you were talking about how the board sits. You could clarify that after I go through the next inquiry. Then the next inquiry is still related now to when someone becomes part of the NCIA Mediators Panel. What is the capacity building that is provided to mediators once they are on the NCIA panel? You may kindly have the two, and then we can be able to go to the, allow me to please go to number 6, which is which panels are currently corresponding with NCIA, meaning once a mediator joins the NCIA panel, they automatically are enrolled into that other panel, whether it's a local or an international panel. You may kindly respond to that, and then we can go through the other comments that are on the chat. Thank you, Alex.
All right, thank you, Wangari. And I'll start with the first on how mediators can be a useful force in the development of mediation. And I'll say this out of the experience that we've had. and I'll make reference to how arbitrators on our panel have been a useful force to the development of arbitration. When we began and we started getting the arbitration cases, these arbitrators, and I'm sure you're aware that we don't have many arbitrators in Kenya. It's just and it's always the common faces, the usual suspects, as we call them, yeah. And what they've done, once the first person got the first case and told the next person, hey, you need to be on this panel, you've gotten a nice case and it's very efficient. And I enjoy the institutional way they're doing it, which is different from what, for instance, the Chartered Institute does in the conduct of arbitrations. So that one spoke to another, and once now our panel had cases, they've actually referred even parties. You have a dispute, why don't you then adopt the NCIA clause and we do your dispute under NCIA? So they have actually been able to market us based on the fact that they've had a first-hand experience, gone through our, how we conduct our processes, gone through the institutional, the institutional support given to arbitrators, and giving feedback and saying this is way better than they have ever experienced. So the mediators, of course, once you, and then someone who indicated that the ADR in general is like a salon, all right, where you have your hair done, and someone asks you, hey, where did you get, and you refer, it's a reference practice. And we found that the reference comes in with quality services being offered. We found that it has actually worked and is growing the mediation practice. Of course, there has to be a lot of marketing of mediation services across the country. Kenyans have this mentality that I'm in a dispute, I must go to court. We have to fight it out. We can't sit on the same table. We're not talking. So once they understand, and the courts again are helping in the build of mediation by screening and saying, no, this case, take it to mediation. This case, take it to the court next, take it to NCIA, take it to whichever institution is there, is conducting mediation. So if you have mediators also who are encouraging, parties, encouraging fellow mediators, let's grow this, let's participate in this kind of, insightful engagements, the practice will grow. And of course, you're aware there's the mediation bill, which is the thing before the National Assembly. There's the ADR bill, which is before the Senate. There's the national ADR policy, which all seek to, to build that force behind the practice of mediation. They basically seek to support the practice of mediation and other forms of ADR. So if we're all united and mediators say, okay, fine, this is the way to go, let's follow this path, let's all move together, then the growth of mediation will be inevitably quite high. Capacity building at the center, we do have a capacity building unit, and we have actually begun training for mediators and arbitrators. And what the unit is currently coming up with is some sort of CPDs, continuous professional development for mediators on the panel. So I'm sure if you look at the Act, the NCIA Act, it mandates the center to train and accredit mediators and arbitrators in Kenya. So if you're training them and accrediting them, then you must then have a continuous annual process of training and building their capacity to be, of course, up to date with whatever is happening around the field of mediation. So that is happening. The curriculum just got approved just before COVID. We're supposed to start our first training in March. Again, the guidelines from government, we couldn't start training. But as soon as, what the center is now trying to look at is other ways other than the physical sitting in a class to train mediators and arbitrators, a form like what we're currently doing tonight. But this is, the center has a capacity building mechanism for people on their panel. So the last question on the sixth rather was which panels are corresponding to NCIA. We do not have, I don't have a definite answer to this, but what the practice has been, if for instance you're accredited by MAC in the the court annex mediation, meaning you have, and their criteria is more or less the same in terms of training and experience. So if you have been doing mediation under any other, panel, whether international or local, it's always almost automatic that you will be on the NCIA panel. Because yes, if you remember us looking at the form, if you have the qualifications and some form of experience, it's almost automatic that you're then on the panel. Yeah. So locally, it's been MAC accrediting, mediators, and even the judiciary panel. Then NCIA panel is always automatic. I'll disclose this. The chairperson of MAC, I'm sure you must then know, John O'Haga, also sits in the NCIA board. And we've had instances where, he sees an application at NCIA, which he had seen at MAC, and they approved at MAC. So it's always automatic that then you get in through to the NCIA panel. Thank you, Wangari.
Thank you for that, and also especially for the challenge, because it's like a football game. We need everyone kicking the ball so that it's rolling, and yes, everyone putting in their weight and measure. Colleagues will be on the call for an additional 5 minutes to allow Mr. Alex Mwaniki of the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration to now handle or just summarize with regard to comments that are also on the chat. We have comments with regard to why don't you advertise on media regularly to create awareness, which is what we view or mediators view as how you'd be part of the players on the pitch as you kicking the ball, because you have the muscle, you have the capacity, and you have the budget. Are there opportunities for young mediators to observe or gain experience through the center? And as you respond on young mediators, also we are very highly sensitive to the fact that mediation today is a profession that's attracting people who have careers, long-standing careers in diverse professions. And in as much as they have just done their certification for mediation, they have years of experience in other areas, they may not qualify for what you traditionally call as a young mediator, but they are young in mediation. So also how we handle senior persons who are young in mediation. Then also we have a comment, we need to encourage businessmen and women to include mediation clauses in agreements and on all contracts. So probably you can indicate to us, Alex, what's happening behind the scenes and who's doing something. You have mentioned that we have the mediation bill, we have the ADR policy, and also we have in Senate matters to do with ADR. We have now a good question with regard to what are the payments for mediators in your panel? How is it computed? Is it a standard amount, or it's based on the case? Then there's a comment, we need various government ministries to create awareness and have something like a political buyout, since unless NCI is a household name through the government buy-in, through the government buy-in, the public will still have a very limited uptake of mediation as a choice dispute resolution mechanism. We have an inquiry on one may be certified, but does not have much practical experience as a practitioner, but maybe work in an organization that engages in mediation from time to time. Would you consider such an application for registration by NCIA? I believe here, Alex, you will kindly comment to us with regard to the other alternative routes that one can be on the panel. In addition to academic qualification, the other avenues, which in case even sometimes the person does not have the academic qualification, but they could still qualify. Then we have an inquiry with regard to, is it possible that for the NCIA to provide the NCIA curriculum for trainee mediators? And then also, is there mentorship that is provided by NCIA? We also have inquiries with regard to how, as mediators, we can become trainers for the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration. We have been mediating for a long time. We are training out there. So how can someone be able to develop in the different avenues that are available now for this career, either one as a mediator, as a trainer for mediators, as an assessor? There are quite a number of routes that can be available. So kindly, Alex, you will please follow that in less than 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Wangari. Okay, just sorry, I was trying to look for some. Okay, allow me to share my screen.
Yes, you.
And I'm sharing this because it answers a question that has been asked, and I'll start with that question. Payment for mediators. How much are mediators paid if you have your mediation done or your mediator at NCIA? This is contained in the second schedule of the mediation rules. All right. And mediator's fee is part C, which says a sum of Kenya shillings 5,000 for any time spent in mediation below and up to 1 hour. All right. And a sum of Kenya shillings 15,000 per mediation session. And a mediation session is equivalent to time spent in a mediation above 1 hour and not exceeding 3 hours. Then a sum of Kenya shillings 1,000 per hour for review of documents and related works. All right. And then there's a note, goes on and on and on. And that's for a domestic mediation. Okay. And for international mediation, the fee again is a sum of USD 300 for any time spent below or up to 1 hour, a sum of 600 per mediation session, again, similar to what up there, but the figures are different. So looking at our rules, you do actually know what will be your fee as a mediator, and it's clearly outlined in the rules. So I hope that answers the question that one of the gentlemen I think had asked on how much the payment for mediators.
Yes, that's clear.
All right, great.
And secondly, you will share these documents. We will be able to share it with the colleagues,
yes,
so that it can help them in making their judgment whether they want to apply international or local. Thank you.
Local, absolutely. I'll share these after our meeting so that you're able to circulate amongst the attendees. And these again available on our website. If you just go to our website and you check mediation rules, they will be there. There was a question on the young mediators and mentorship. And we've actually been getting these so many times that the center now it's on its final stages. I think I remember mentioning this in our previous meeting. It's in final stages of coming up with a mentorship program. The program is supposed to address people who you have been trained, your profession in another field, and you've said, okay, I need to get into mediation, and you go and get trained for mediation, which is basically what we're looking at. That you have a training, and you have been trained by any of the bodies that train mediators. So the program is supposed to have people who do not have any experience handheld by mediators in our panel. You are able to sit in through a mediation, of course, with the consent of the parties. You must sign non-disclosure forms and whatnot. So that we are in the final stages of coming up with that mentorship program. And once it's out, we will send it out. And in fact, we'll even inform the institutions that train that whenever you have, who you've trained, the center will be taking up X number of trainees per year, and then they can then apply for that to be in that mentorship program. These, of course, will give them the experience that all these institutions and panels are looking for to empanel them. All right. Secondly, again, on that bit of young mediators, we've had people who have no experience at all, but they've been trained, and they come and say, you know what, I don't have experience. I know I'm not qualified to be on your panel, but I'm happy to offer pro bono services. All right. And we've again then asked them to bring in the applications. They do 2 or 3 pro bono cases, and they are fit to be done on the panel. Part of what I spoke about earlier, the partnership we are developing with the judiciary, is also to have some of these people mentored by the senior mediators who are now very active at the judiciary. All right, they have so many cases coming in through the courts of the screening processes. We want to be part of that mentorship program, given that they have quite a lot of people who just want to go to court first. People who do not know that you can actually begin the mediation process directly without having to go filing your matter in court. Screening is done and then taken back to mediation. So we're trying to sort of have that mentorship program inbuilt in our partnership with the judiciary in as far as mediation is concerned. And this it's a challenge we've been having about senior persons who are very new on mediation. The board says, okay, we have a standard, and you say you do not get in unless you have some sort of, and the experience could be, I've done 2 cases, I've done 3 cases, not that have done hundreds of, or tens of cases. It's just that you have had an experience and you have cases that you've completed. All right. So 1, 2, 3, they can always consider, and especially if you're a senior person, then they will understand that you then get the nitty-gritties of the practice of mediation. Yes, I think there's something else that I missed, Wangari. I'm not sure. I wrote 5 of them, which are sort of connected. The young mediators mentorship, the senior persons young on mediation, and then oh yes, I got it. Mediators as trainees. We did advertise not so long ago, and it was in the papers, and we requested mediators who have been in this thing for long to apply for training at the center. And the first batch had been evaluated and were put on board. But this is a continuous process, and would request any mediator who is listening tonight and has any experience as a tutor, trainer, to apply to the center. And of course, I mean, that's a very simple, the way you would apply for a job. Yeah, and you basically attaching your profile, and you indicate that you'd want to be trained, to be a trainer at the center. And that's an application which will be received, and processed very quickly. Since we really want to start, we didn't get as many applications as we had hoped for, but we do have enough to begin that training, which was again supposed to begin in March. So yes, please, if you're qualified and you're interested in training, please reach out to us. We'll be happy to receive you and to put you on our list. Wangari.
So Alex, that's that's clarifying. Thank you for that clarification with regard to the NCIA panel, and also we are on the aspects so to do with training. And the reason why you're having these questions with regard to training is because we have we as Wasilianahub community, we look at mediation as a career, and so we look at it in terms of what are the different facets, what are the different areas that one can be able to progress in. So we have colleagues who are progressing in this career with regard to as mediators, because that's what they would be interested in. We have colleagues who are progressing in this work as mediators and also as trainers. And also we have colleagues who are progressing in this work as mediators, as trainers, and also as authors or writers in this particular work. And that's just about the beginning. I see great comments and remarks that are on this chat, and I can see that, Alex, that you're smiling. This tells you that we probably should be saying that these are cousins or that have been separated, but we are looking for that there can be closer relation for the mediators with the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration, and also with other panels that are out there. At this juncture, I would like to invite the host for our sessions and our de facto moderator at our various sessions, and that is Mediator Sarah Ater, who to be able to give us the vote of thanks. And as Mediator Sarah Ater prepares to give us the vote of thanks, I would like to remind colleagues that we have a number of sessions that are planned for this particular month of July. We are looking forward to our next session, which will be on Thursday, 16th, and it is starting from 7 a.m. To 5 p.m. and we will be focusing on intellectual property. This is a series that we are running for mediators and dispute resolution professionals, so that we can be able to enable our mediators to be able to grow in their commercial mediation prowess, and especially in very, very highly specialized areas. And so this will be on Thursday, July 16th. It is a full day from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And the training will be conducted by KIPI, which is the Kenya Industrial Property Institute. On the 23rd, on Thursday at 2 p.m., we will be having our session with Dr. Francis Kariuki, who's a lecturer at Strathmore University. And the focus of the session is on mediating counsel, coming from two sides. If you are a counsel and you are involved in a mediation, and then also secondly, a counsel who's developing themselves as a mediator. And this will be the first session. The second session by Dr. Francis Kariuki will be held in August, still on the same topic of mediating counsel. On the 30th, which is on Thursday at 2 p.m. July, we will be hosting a session that is focusing on the broken supply chains, and we'll be hosting North Star Alliance, and we will have the Regional Director for East Africa, Ms. Eva Mwai, who will be joining us to help us to understand just how broken the supply chains are. They work on the transit corridors across Africa, and the intention for this is to enable us to understand where can mediators plug in, because we know that there are mediators who now are scouting out for where the work is. So that is what we have lined up for the period that is coming. Allow me to kindly invite Mediator Sarah to please take us through the closing section. Mediator Sarah, welcome.
Okay. Thank you very much, Wangari. To stay with us through the session. I can see it's actually going into 11 o'clock. So I really appreciate everyone for joining us this evening for the session. A lot of appreciation to Alex for taking us through the form very, very clearly. And I'm sure you have seen from the comments that mediators are very appreciative of the time that you took at this pretty late hour to be able to take us through this. A lot of appreciation to ourselves, mediators who have been here up to this time. There's quite a few of us. We have been very engaged, you know, asking the questions, and I'm sure mediators, you will agree with me that we will be submitting our applications at the end of the month. So Alex, look forward to a good number of us being able to submit our applications at the end of the month. Also very grateful to Wangari for taking us through the session. Thank you for moderating the session. And yes, just to say a good night to everybody. And yes, looking forward to see you on Thursday. Thank you, Wangari.
We have our opportunity to close, and as is our tradition, we close with our national anthem, which is already on the group chat as we were starting off, and we will go back again to the first stanza of the national anthem. So, E Mungu nguvu yetu, ilete baraka kwetu, haki iwe ngao na mlinzi, na tukae na undugu, amani na uhuru, raha tupate na ustawi. Ladies and gentlemen, please have a good night. Mr. Alex Mwaniki, please pass our best regards and also greetings and appreciation to your team and to your colleagues. And please tell them that we say that it's possible. And yes, it's been possible. We've had you on this call. So ladies and gentlemen, please have a good night. It was good to have you on the call. God bless you.
God bless and good night.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
That was great.
Good night. Thank you. God bless you all.
All right, good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Thanks everyone.
Purchaser remains pending for over 300 days, the supplier suddenly finds themselves in a nightmare. What happens when services have been offered, but the purchaser keeps extending the pay date? You could run to the courts, but they currently have a backlog of pending cases. Is there another alternative? One that is a legally binding or enforceable and faster route to dispute resolution? Welcome to the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration, NCIA, an arbitral institution which facilitates parties to resolve disputes away from court litigation. Among the dispute resolution mechanisms offered at the center is mediation, where, through a mediator, independent third party who facilitates the parties to find their solution to a dispute in a confidential and well-structured process. One of the facilities at the center are the state-of-the-art hearing rooms, which offer a private and receptive venue for the dispute resolution mechanisms. The NCIA invites parties and practitioners to utilize the hearing rooms at an affordable fee. The center offers training and accreditation for mediators and arbitrators and educates the public on arbitration as well as other alternative dispute resolution mechanisms as provided in Section 5 of the NCIA Act 2013. The training in alternative dispute resolution, ADR, is open to anyone who wants to learn about dispute avoidance, management, and resolution. Our trainings are held in ultra-modern training rooms and are led by expert practitioners in alternative dispute resolution. The trainings can be tailored to sectors and to individual clients. Training with us gives the trainee high-quality assessment standards, access to leading practitioners in the field of ADR as tutors, as well as expert-designed materials. Granted that justice delayed is justice denied, the NCIA now stands to alleviate the delay, taking cases that would otherwise be among the many still waiting to be heard and providing efficient and affordable alternative forms of dispute resolution. This is the future of dispute management and settlement, where arbitration and alternative forms of dispute resolution offer you a less conflictual experience, so you can get back on track to achieving your dreams. The NCIA, where disputes meet resolution.
Thank you for joining us and have a good evening. God bless you.